There we go. Okay, I will just share my screen and just move things with the slideshow. Sorry, I'm multitasking at the moment, Paul.
Well, women are better at that than men.
Okay, so can everybody see the screen? Yep, cool. Thank you very much. And over to you, Paul.
Great stuff. So yes, we've only got 30 minutes, so I'll just go through sort of the main points on this PowerPoint with you today. As Elizabeth said, there's more information that will come through with the communication pack. So this is sort of just a snapshot of what some care homes will need to do now, and what other care homes will have to get in place for 2027. So next slide, please, Liz, if that's okay. Great stuff. So some of you on the call might be aware already, some might not be, but from the 31st of March, there's new waste legislation that's going to come into effect, that with any organisation with more than 10 employees will have to start to recycle their waste in much more detail than they have been before. Many care homes haven't got recycling stream in place. They'll have to get that in place, but that'll also much more focus on food waste and stripping out the food waste from the rest of your general waste. So it will mean better management of waste internally, some staff training, but it'll certainly mean approaching your waste collection service, or us if you want to get a specific food waste and potentially glass waste collection in place. That may get new bins and all that sort of stuff in place as well. So if you're sitting on this call and you've got less than 10 employees, don't drop off the call. There's more information for you a bit later on in the presentation, which you'll need to know about. Next slide, please. So these are what the new collections will look like. So, the vast majority will have general waste in place already. Some of you might have the DMR, which is dry mix recycling. And at the moment, a lot of waste is going into the dry mix recycling, but most food waste, if you haven't got a specific food waste stream and collection in place at the moment, that'll be going into general waste. So these are the new streams that you'll need to get in place on or before the 31st of March this year. So for some care homes, that will be an increase of 3 streams. For other care homes, that might be you have it in place already. But for most won't have a food waste stream in place as it stands at the moment. Obviously, these are just for non-clinical. We can also give advice on clinical waste. As many of you know, some will be split into 2. Some is for infectious, some is for non-infectious on your clinical waste. But again, we can help with make savings and management with that as well. But this is specifically for this new legislation coming up. Next slide, please. So what do these new waste streams look like? So let's say some of you might have the mixed recycling in place already, but from going forward, the only stuff that can now go into that is listed there. So paper, cardboard. It says cardboard, that's really anything sort of general small packaging and stuff like that. If you've got lots and lots of big cardboard, we'd probably suggest putting in a separate stream for cardboard. But for most care home facilities, putting it through dry mix recycling will be fine. So plastic containers, bottles, metal things, so like cans, food cans, they can all go into dry mix recycling. The only thing that can't go in there, apart from food waste and general waste, is glass. So a lot of us are quite used to putting glass in our recycling at home. Don't ask me why, but it's okay for the public to put glass waste into recycling at home. But for organisations and commercial entities, we can't put glass into dry mix recycling. The waste companies will tell you it's because it affects their machinery when it gets to the processing facility. But why it applies to organisations, not the public, I don't know. But the main thing there is again is food waste, which most care homes, we believe, would not have a food waste stream in place at the moment. So this is really about sort of focusing on people, yes, on glass. So if you're producing a lot of glass, strip that out. But food waste is the main thing we're trying to focus on at the moment. Next slide, please. So again, some of you will be aware of this already, but the reasons for this new legislation is basically to stop food waste going to landfill. It produces a lot of methane when it gets there, so it's all for sustainability reasons. It can leach out into the waterway, so infect water systems near sort of waste dump facilities. And the third point there is also bring us in line with other legislation in the UK, but also to improve the quality and quantity of waste collections. That's what they say the legislation's for. I don't exactly know what that means. I guess we'll find out in the next 6 months, 12 months, but apparently it will improve collections from waste organisations. And reasons to comply. So like any legislation, it's viewed as a pain in the backside. It will mean some changes, but there's also some nasty slap on the wrist stuff which could come down the line. So why want to bring this to attention of care homes in particular? And we'll go on to a bit of background about Anenta in a bit, but our background has been doing waste services for the NHS for the last 10 years. And our owners are ex-NHS and got very fed up with the way that waste companies treat the care sector. So the last 10 years been NHS, now it's care homes. And the reason we're flagging up at the moment is if you don't comply, you can have EA compliance notices, you can have fines incurred, and you can potentially have your site closed down. What that really means, we think, is the waste companies have now got a little bit of I had to be careful how I say this, a bit of a way of maybe using this legislation to fine organisations that don't comply. So you might have had it with your home recycling waste in the past. If you've maybe 2 years ago, we had it down in Kent where the local authority would just slap stickers on your bin saying you've got mixed waste, we're not collecting it. We think that will happen with a lot of waste companies, that the employees will be told to check inside the bins, anything that's non-compliant, stick a sticker on it. And that'll mean a notification to you, it mean potential fine, and it mean your waste won't be collected, which is just a pain in the backside. And we know from the rumours we hear, and we know from our experience, that waste companies will target the care sector because they know it's underfunded, understaffed, and haven't got time to deal with it. So they're a soft touch. So that's why we want to raise it importantly. It's great for sustainability and all the rest of it. It's there for the right reasons. But we think, knowing waste companies as we do, there's a potential to sort of go after the care sector at probably the worst time for care sector companies at the moment. And just the bottom one there, yes, it's going to be a pain in the backside, but actually disposing of food waste is cheaper overall than put it into your general waste. General waste cost is probably about 16 to 20% more expensive to dispose of your waste that way. So pain in the backside to get this all in place, especially with the timescales. But it is cheaper to dispose of your food waste once you've got those streams in place. Next slide, please. So again, bit of a tight writing on this, but what to do next? As touched on beforehand, if you've got less than 10 employees, legislation doesn't apply to your organisation. But getting back to what I spoke about then, if you're not covered under this legislation, your waste management company won't know that when they come and collect your waste. So unless you've alerted them and told them that you are a micro business, so that's an organisation with less than 10 employees, they may well not collect your bins. If they see something they perceive to be mixed waste and hasn't been done properly, they see food waste and a general waste or whatever, then there's a fair chance they might slap a sticker on your bin, say we're not collecting, and fine you. So as soon as possible, if you're less than 10 employees, notify your waste management companies, advise them you're a micro business, and then that should hopefully stop them from not carrying out their service and fining you as well. If it does apply to you, then all you need to do is either tell your waste company at the moment that you are you do find this legislation, and you need to sort of suggest what you need to them essentially. So they should better pick up the phone to you already and gone through it. If not, notify them. Say, yep, we fall under this legislation, and we need to get a new recycling stream in place, a new food waste stream in place, whatever it is that you require. And then they'll supply the bins to you and then start to collect that waste from whenever you want them to. So obviously from the 31st of March, but if you want to do it beforehand, obviously you can do. Or we can do that for you. So if you're fed up with your waste company at the moment, or don't trust them, or want to try something else, then we'll happily do that for you as well. So obviously the information pack that comes out, any questions, or if you want us to just do a general review, that bottom section there, that's what we normally do with our care home clients, is do a thorough review of all their waste management contracts and billing. And then we'll come back, do a thorough review of that, and come back with our outlines of what savings we can make, and just where they can be better, more efficient, and also just make sure they're fully compliant with all legislation. So we're happy to do that. On average, we save a care home about £8,000. So again, if you want us to do a review for you, and set out why we're different to every other waste organisation in the UK, then we'll happily do that. Next slide, please. There's a lot of information contained on this, so you can read through that as you see fit. But mainly the reason why Anenta is different is we're a waste management organisation, but we're not a waste management organisation. We're the appointed manager for the NHS, for most NHS trusts across the UK, to manage their waste. We're set up by ex-Guy's and St Thomas's waste and sustainability directors. I say they got very fed up with how the waste companies in the UK treat the care sector. So we're set up to protect care homes and the NHS from the oddities of the waste management companies in the UK. I have to be very careful what I say about them, but yeah, they're not awfully often on the company's side that they're dealing with. So we're here to help where we can do. Next slide, please. So yes, any questions, fine. If you could go one more page, apologies, just to go to the next one. Just to point you in this. So anything further you need about us, obviously contact me, but click on our website there. Anything you want sort of additional wise for any more detail about this legislation, and also you can, on the wrap details there, you can also go in there and work out calculations. So you can punch in what waste streams you think you need, and it can spit out a calculation back to you, but just some general information there. So just a quick snapshot of why legislation is coming in, what you need to do. I say Elizabeth will send out the full information pack afterwards, but happy to take any questions now if anybody has any.
Thank you, Paul. I'll stop sharing and just see if there's any questions come up. I don't have no hands.
Sorry, I'm trying to get a hand up. It's not helping me.
That's okay. Where are you?
I'm Caroline Genman.
Hello, Caroline. Do you want to fire away?
Hello. So, just so I'm clear, so I'm assuming we get charged because we're Brighton Hove City Council, so I don't always see the bills coming and going. I'm assuming we get an additional charge from our refuge company.
Yeah. So
outside what normal domestic homes would get.
Yeah. So local authorities, if you're a local authority care associate or the authority itself, then the local authority should have notified the care facilities themselves by now. We know a lot haven't, and made them aware of this legislation, and then said, okay, this date you're going to get these new bins, you need to do this, and we'll charge you slightly differently. We know that hasn't happened in a lot of local authorities, and certainly hasn't with the private waste collectors. So if you haven't been notified by a local authority, then yeah, you need to notify them and say, what are you doing for us? What are you supposed to be doing?
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
We've got a couple of questions in the chat, Paul. So the first one is, we are in the care sector and provide 24/7 support. In some cases, housing association properties or private homes. Is this covered by the new legislation?
It's a good question. It isn't really. It's really at the moment per sort of care home. If you're going out, it is a real tricky one, especially for local authorities, is if you're going into people's homes doing 24-hour support, they'll push you to do the recycling through the domestic waste. So produce the waste at that site and use the waste bins and waste streams at that site. But we know it's going to be challenging in certain areas where you're having doctors going out or medicines being disposed of and stuff like that. That doesn't come and fall under this, but some of this food waste legislation might impact that. But we'd normally say if you're going to a person's property, then use their waste streams, unless advised otherwise, of course.
Thank you. And the next one, the next question is from James. Do these legal changes to care homes apply to other settings, e.g. Day services and let me just day services for people with learning disabilities?
So yeah, any sort of non-domestic setting where waste is produced, it will fall under, unless there's less than 10 employees there. If there's less than 10 employees, this legislation will come into effect in 2027. So we'd recommend getting it in place anyway, and it's the right thing to do sustainability wise and that sort of stuff. But so yeah, anywhere that's got is producing waste on a regular basis that isn't a domestic setting, then it probably falls under this legislation.
Yeah. And we had another just a comment really clarifying around supported accommodation. Is this applicable to supported housing, which I think you've covered, Paul. Any more questions? No. Okay. So obviously we've got all of your emails. If you've joined this by a forwarding link and you would like to receive the resource pack, just make sure we've got your email in the chat. As I said at the beginning, we will include a recording of the webinar, the slides Paul used, and he's put together a really good resource sheet, fact sheet for sharing. So that'll be coming your way shortly. And oh, thank you. Yep, we've got emails coming in the chat now. And yeah, I hope you found that useful. That's been a really good heads up, Paul, and just, what these sessions are designed to cover. Next week, our Lunch and Listen is everything you need to know about best interest decisions. So that's a very quick canter through some of the legal and ethical complexities. So look out on our website, you can sign up there. And thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. And well done, Paul, in under 30 minutes. So excellent. So we'll stay on the line. If you've got any other questions or anything that you want to ask, we'll stay on the line till 12 o'clock. And thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.